This is the New American Media.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to the Unhappy Hour, the place where Cleveland sports fans get together and talk about the misery of never winning championships with the Cavs, the Browns, or the Indians. At least in our recent days, since back to 1964. I am your host, Brian Engelman. Thank you for joining us today on the NewAmericanMedia.com. I appreciate each and every one of you out there in the TNAM radio network. Our special guest today, Rob Trautman. We're going to talk Cleveland Browns. We're going to focus specifically on it. Real quick, follow us on Twitter at American_media_. Go to our youtube.com/the New American Media page and like it, or subscribe to it. Do all the things. Search on Facebook, The New American Media with space in between, like the page. Check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Without any further ado, because we only have him briefly today, we're going to bring in Cleveland Browns, well, Cleveland sports fan, Rob Trautman. Shall we?
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the program. You are live on the air, Rob. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, living the dream, and I know I have you for a brief moment in time here due to scheduling quirks, but you gotta love it. I can talk to you across the country. They couldn't do this 150 years ago, so I am blessed to have you for the little amount of time that we do have you for. So let's jump right into it real quick. Introduce yourself, tell people where they can connect with you, and let's just get into the Cleveland Browns, shall we?
All right, I'm Rob Trautman, and I have Sports on Tap, host of Sports on Tap, which is a podcast in Cleveland, Ohio. You can catch us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. We're also on Facebook at SOT Podcast there as well, and have fun talking all kinds of sports, connecting with sports shows like yourself, and yeah, let's have some fun, talk a little bit of football.
Absolutely. You know, it's a great time to do the Unhappy Hour. You have the Three Stooges running the Cleveland Browns. You have Davone Bess and all the garbage he's going through. What the heck is going on with Kellen Winslow? We still don't have a head coach. You know, I mean, we could talk Cavs, we can talk Indians and all that jazz a little bit later. Maybe the Buckeyes' 3-game losing streak in men's basketball for the first time in, a little bit. But let's just focus on the Browns. I guess, should we start with the absurd and work our way to the head coaching search, or do we start with the head coaching search and work our way to the absurd? Your call.
You know, it's been crazy here. I mean, either way you look at it, it's just unbelievable the way things have turned out. You know, firing Rob Trautman, I'm sure they probably imagined this going a little bit better. But, you know, like Jimmy Haslam sent out a message this week to season ticket holders and media and just saying that, you know, they're not ready to hire a coach yet. They want to go through the process and still interview some candidates, and they brought in recently the Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator, Mike Pettin, who's 47. He was in his first season with Buffalo. He was otherwise with the Jets. Really successful, and I know the Buffalo Bills fans really like him there. They've tried to turn that program around, but the Browns are really impressed with him, and I know they're also impressed with Dan Quinn, who's the Seattle defensive coordinator. They came off pretty impressed with those two right now. I think they're probably at the head of the list. As you know, a lot of the Browns interviewed a lot of other coaches like Josh McDaniels, who said family was important right now and it just wasn't the right time.
Well, he also said, well, if you're not going to tell me I'm the head coaching candidate, if I'm not in the lead, I'm not interested in it. It really came off as really whiny how he phrased it.
You know, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, it seemed a little bit weird that I have a feeling, somebody said that, you know, it was a 7 to 8 hour meeting and it was awesome in his words, and right. I think once he said, you know, am I the front runner, and they couldn't give him an answer, he wasn't too happy with that and said, you know, I guess this isn't the right time. So I tend to agree with you on that.
Either you're going to date me exclusively or I'm not hanging out with you anymore. You need to make a choice. Either we're going steady or I'm going to – there are other options. I'm getting old. These eggs are not getting any younger. So if you're not going to make a commitment to me, I'm out of here. That's really kind of what it came down.
He's getting real old. He's 37 years old and has a nice cushy gig in New England. You know.
Well, they're also saying that he's in line to be Belichick's predecessor. Who knows? Belichick will probably be 118 years old over there cheating death just like he cheats in the NFL. So maybe he'll never get that job, but you never know. Okay, so you got the Buffalo D coordinator, the Seattle D coordinator, and they've been tearing it up as well. That defense is astonishing, and it always seems like the Browns are like a step away, one playmaker away, a scheme away, a play call away from really having a dominant defense. I mean, it's just kind of interesting that they're going to go that route. But I've been struck with this. I've kind of felt like the Browns have their guy in mind, but it's somebody amongst the 4 teams that are still playing. And so while everyone hurries up and picks up their coach, and I mean, Lovie Smith, he was pretty successful in Chicago. He ended up down there in Tampa Bay. It seems like a pretty good hire to me. Of course, Cowher doesn't want to come out of ESPN's cushy gig, and Gruden doesn't want to come out of ESPN's cushy gig. But I've kind of had this sneaking suspicion that our guy is already determined, but he's just not available yet, so we kind of look like clowns a little bit longer. Am I touching on something, or am I a little off base there, do you think? If you had to guess, if you were a betting man, Rob.
It does seem that way, and I know I haven't even mentioned Adam Gase, he's another young offensive coordinator. He's in his first year as offensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos, and everybody's saying that the Browns, he's the top target, and it's no guarantee he's going to leave Denver to come to the Browns. But I know, a good offensive mind, and I think John Elway and a lot of the Denver front office really talked highly of him before this week's game coming up on Sunday. But I think you're right. I mean, why they're going to wait, to interview a few more candidates and not hire somebody right now. Obviously, they have their mind going with a team that, obviously has been successful. And, that could result in Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator of Seattle, or Adam Gase. Those two guys might be fighting neck and neck. I mean, it's tough to really say at this point in time. The Browns front office isn't saying much about this coaching search after how Rob Trautman's went last year. So they're going to keep it quiet, and they need to really get this right. If they don't get this right, I think you can look at some front office changes next, which would not be good.
Well, and I was thinking about that too, but one of my quick points on that, though, isn't Peyton Manning, isn't he the offensive coordinator essentially? Isn't he the field general, the field marshal? I mean, to give the Broncos coordinator all of this prestige when it's really Manning calling the shots, as he has been. He's been the on-field general, audibling every play. It's kind of the Peyton show. I don't know. I just don't know how much credit I would give to him. But before I talk about Banner and Lombardi, because in my opinion, if you hire Chud and he's the wrong guy and you know it after a year and you got to pay Chud for 2 extra years to go sit on the couch and watch the Super Bowl, twiddling his thumbs and playing PlayStation, I kind of feel like you needed to fire Banner and Lombardi because they made that stupid decision. But I want to ask you about that in a second. What about Jim Tressel? Why won't Jim Tressel get an interview? He's been proven. He's brought me the only championship I've ever been able to celebrate as a Cleveland sports fan in my life, and I had to go 2.5 hours south to the Buckeyes to get it. He's been out of football for a couple of years. The scandal has subsided. He's a winner everywhere he goes, from Youngstown State to Columbus. Why is Tressel not getting any love here? Why has he not legitimately been interviewed despite all of the rumors that were floating around a week or two ago?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to interview the guy. I mean, he has been successful on all levels, but he has never been an NFL head coach, so maybe that worries him. And, in college, I mean, I remember him coaching, a lot of times, he wouldn't run up the score and they were winning just barely, but they did win. And, winning obviously is the difference. And I think he's a winning coach, and the Browns should have. I mean, I don't think it hurts to bring a guy like that in, especially, a character guy that, discipline, he still has the discipline. I don't care what anybody says with the scandal and everything. He's been there for players. He's like a father figure to them, and I think he could handle it. And I thought for sure that maybe he would come into the NFL this year, maybe be an offensive coordinator or a quarterbacks coach or something, but nothing has panned out. And I know Akron is continually giving him different name tags of what he's doing there. So at least he has a gig there, but I think eventually, whether it's this year, next year, he's going to be in the NFL. It just is a matter of when. And the Browns apparently have different ideas at this point in time.
They have different ideas from day to day with the Three Stooges. It's the phrase that was bandied about. I don't know. I'm being pretty harsh on Haslam and the ownership, but I mean, Haslam's under investigation for all this for all the stuff with his Pilot Flying J Corporation and all the scandals over there, and Lombardi, and it's a little strange. Back to Banner and Lombardi real quick before we move on to the absolutely absurd with the Kellen Winslow and Davone Bess stuff. Just Banner and Lombardi, how were they not on thin ice? How were they not axed for making the wrong decision as they did last year? I really don't understand how they've survived this and come out unscathed. Or the flip side of that coin, why would any coach come in here when Banner and Lombardi are calling the shots and you can't even do your job? Everything's being micromanaged from people that might not know what they're doing. Why would any coach take that?
Well, I think the first thing is Jimmy Haslam. I think the one thing he saw was 5 Pro Bowlers, and they brought in, some good talent. I know Josh Gordon isn't necessarily their talent, but some of the off-season moves I thought worked out for them. But the Pro Bowlers, getting the right coaches, I guess, in there. I mean, they had a decent coaching staff, you think, with Ray Horton and North Turner. But I think that saved them a little bit, saying, we got some decent talent in here. We just couldn't put together wins. And right now, I think it's going to be a little bit different. Jimmy Haslam is going to be really part of the coaching process a lot more. And when you look overall at the big picture, I don't think they're going to have a stamp on everything like they once had. I think the coaching staff that they bring in here, they're going to have a little more to say about talent and everything than this past with Rob Trautman. I think Rob Trautman didn't have as much to say. But the new coach coming in, I think, will have a little more to say than the previous, that's for sure.
We're talking with Rob Trautman from Sports on Tap. Follow him on Twitter at SOT Podcast. You're talking about the Pro Bowlers that we have. Are we going to re-sign them? There's a couple that are kind of in limbo, and they're not locked into longer deals. And then you see the Jets go out and re-sign Rex Ryan, of all people. Okay. Well, there's one thing to be said for consistency. Bill Cowher was with the Steelers for a very long time before he got his Super Bowl. Are we going to re-sign the Pro Bowlers that we have? Is it worth re-signing them? Do you think we will?
Alex Mack is probably one of the bigger free agents the Browns have right now. He's been the center for a long time. I'd like them to sign him. He knows a lot of the talent already there. And T.J. Ward's another guy, a safety who had a career year. He stayed healthy for most of the year, made a lot of tackles, was an impact player. But, I think T.J. Ward's going to look at some other options and see what else is out there. The other free agents are not as big as Alex Mack, the center for the Browns, and T.J. Ward, who's the safety. So Alex Mack, I think, is an important one. And he's right now rated the #1 center in the NFL. So I think that's a big get. You might be able to get a safety in the draft or maybe in free agency, but those two, I think, are pretty big free agents. And if you can get one or two, I think you're good. And the Browns have a lot of cap space. So with free agency and the draft coming up, they're in pretty good shape.
It's amazing what would happen to T.J. Ward when you're in a contract year that you're healthy all year. I don't know, maybe it's a coincidence.
Yeah,
except I don't believe in coincidence.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence. But let's talk about Davone Bess. Browns wide receiver was tweeting out pictures of 5 Hour Energy, bag of weed, and a whole bunch of stupid stuff. And then he was arrested, in a Florida airport for assaulting a cop, and out here with the Kelly Thomas murder from the Fullerton, California police, and the police getting acquitted. I don't know if you're really assaulting a cop with coffee because you squeeze it and some of it gets a splash on him. It seems a bit of an overreaction. I wasn't there, but I'm still trying to gather some data there. But talk about Davone Bess, because the joke is, well, if he's treated by the district attorney like he treated the Browns, I'm sure the charges will be dropped. And I thought that was pretty funny. I enjoyed that.
Wow,
one.
Nice.
But talk about Davone Bess a little bit, because we brought him in as a free agent acquisition for a couple years, hoping he was going to really solidify that receiving core. We have a super stud in Josh Gordon, but Josh Gordon has been in trouble for weed. He's one suspension away from losing an entire season, but he led the NFL in receiving yards last year. How dangerous is it to keep someone like Davone Bess on the field? How long, or on the roster rather? How long before you think he's going to get cut if you do? And how can we put a strong mentor around Gordon to please don't let him do something stupid, because we need him as one of our few playmakers on the Cleveland Browns offense?
Well, I think that's got to be the most important, to get a mentor for Josh Gordon off the field, because on the field he has no problems catching the ball and making big plays. As for Davone Bess, I mean, he had a year in which he struggled all year round and had some real personal issues in the season. Yes, he did drop a lot of balls during the season, but he had to leave. He had a leave of absence during the season. I think he missed a game or two because of personal reasons. And then this is another issue he's had. Just tweeting has not been his thing. He's been getting in a lot of trouble with that. And when you're an NFL athlete, you have to be careful with that. Because anything you post on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, anywhere, it's gonna be all over in a matter of minutes. And that's the kind of issue he's had. He's taken it down, and the Browns said they're dealing with it internally, which seems to be a common theme. But he gets arrested for assaulting a firefighter, police officer, whatever it was, and at Fort Lauderdale International Airport, and he just seems to be in the spotlight. And he even made a comment. He was walking out and was getting questioned by the media, and they asked him about his picture, and he said, "Ask Brandon Weeden," as a joke. And I don't think it's really joking around when you're getting in this much trouble. And I honestly think once the Browns are able to, I can't imagine him being on the team after this. I mean, he had a bad year. He's in trouble, and I think getting him off the books probably would be a smart move for them.
What was the Weeden thing? Because Weed is in the name, or because he was sitting there right next to him, or Weeden took the picture?
No, I think it's just in the name. I don't think I have a hard time believing Brandon Weeden and Davone Bess would hang out. But I've seen weirder things.
Hey, something made him play like garbage last year. Like a weed, like something growing where I don't know. Anyway,
exactly.
I know. How about Kellen Winslow? Kellen Winslow, put the pieces together. Tell us what happened, because this, I tweeted out earlier today. At least he wasn't doing stunts on a motorcycle. A car is much safer.
Yeah, and this is another one. I mean, he just seems to find trouble. He was in a parking lot again. So I guess there's a common theme. He apparently likes parking lots. He was just doing something the cops said he shouldn't be doing. He was just in a Target parking lot hanging out and got himself into a little bit of trouble, we'll say.
He said he was changing clothes. The police said he was in the middle of committing a lewd act. I don't know what to make of it. It's absolutely absurd.
That's another guy that seems to just find trouble whenever he can't stay out of the spotlight either. And in all honesty, I'm sure this could who knows, be the end of his career. Getting in trouble. I'm not sure if teams are going to really want to mess with a veteran tight end who's just iffy right now.
Yeah. Well, look, we only have you for another second or two, so yep. I would like to bring you back and maybe break down the NFL draft. We have plenty of time for it, but someone that's always getting in trouble off field, Johnny Manziel. I think he was number 1 on Mel Kiper's big board for his mock draft, the very first of 2014. Hallelujah. So the Cleveland Browns are going to be what? We're number 4 and 20. What's the second pick we have from the Colts? 26. Off the top of your head, if you have number 4, who do you think is left by the time you get a chance, and what would you like to target? I think he had Carlos Hyde coming to us at 26, which you need a running back, and he's kind of rated up there. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think if at number 4, it's going to be interesting to see who goes number 1. Teddy Bridgewater is slated to go number 1, but I've also seen Johnny Manziel going number 1. So whichever one of those guys goes, there was Blake Bortles from Central Florida who was rated for the Browns at number 4, quarterback. I think they'll probably go with the quarterback, and if they don't, they'll go with the best available. There were Greg Robinson, he's an offensive tackle at Auburn, was rated high too. It depends which way the Browns want to go. I would think if Manziel's there, not only is he going to sell tickets, but he might get this Cleveland fan base who's already a little bit down, maybe excited, because he is a playmaker, has a pretty good arm. Mobility obviously is there. He's short. They have him listed at 6'1", which he does look a little smaller than that, but he's a playmaker, and I think he's going to do well in the NFL. So if he's there at 4, I think the Browns would want a playmaker like that. But we'll wait and see. It's going to be a tough one for them. And at 26, you almost have to go with the best available. There's a wide receiver, Jordan Matthews at Vanderbilt, who's 6'3" and a pretty solid wide receiver if he's there. Carlos Hyde's another guy, a running back from Ohio State who had a great year. It depends, who the coach is, if they're going to go offensive or defensive, because there's a lot of good defensive players as well they can go. But we'll have to wait and see what they do here.
Yeah, and we'll see what they end up doing at the quarterback position. I anticipate that Whedon won't be far out the door when Bess is cut loose. I expect Whedon to go, and who knows? Maybe Hoyer the Destroyer will get another shot with his robotic knee. The android comes on the field, and I don't know. I mean, he showed us something. I wouldn't mind having him as a backup to a rookie, or start him and let the rookie develop for a couple games, and maybe Fisher cut bait with Campbell. Yeah, but I really think where Tim Couch might have been a stretch, where you draft a #1 quarterback but you don't have a line or anything else. I think we have some pieces on that line. We really need a quarterback with some stability and a long-term uptick potential there, and we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I think we can break this down a little bit further when we both have some more time. So, Rob, thank you very much for joining us. I know it was very hectic, and I appreciate you for working us into your schedule. Once again, Rob Trautman, Sports on Tap is where you can find him. Search, let's see, the podcast. So let's see, on Twitter you search SOT Podcast, and I guess on iTunes you just search SOT or SOT Podcast.
Yeah, sports. Just type in Sports on Tap,
Sports
and
on Tap.
Our podcast will come up on iTunes. We're on Podomatic as well, where you'll find all of our podcasts there as well.
Perfect. Well, hey, thanks for joining us again. We'll be talking again soon. I appreciate your time as always.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, take care, Rob. There goes Rob Trautman, everybody. Man, I just sometimes you just get really amped for football, and the AFC divisional championship, or the AFC and NFC championship games. The divisional championships are coming up. I don't know who's going to be, Broncos or Patriots. Broncos or Patriots. Man, I don't know what to root for there. I don't know. Niners, Seahawks. These are some pretty darn good matchups. I'm expecting a lot of great football this week. And who knows, maybe eventually the Browns are even going to have a new head coach. So, I'll tell you what, we're just going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back on the other side. We are going to do Agree to Disagree. I definitely have to cover that Kelly Thomas, the beating and murder of homeless man Kelly Thomas by the Fullerton, California police. The jury just gave their verdict of not guilty for the two thugs, former police officers of Fullerton that, if you haven't seen the video, I encourage you to see the video and be ready to be sad, maybe cry, sick to your stomach, but you got to see what's going on, because I don't understand why this is not national news. We had, a year and a half of nonstop Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman coverage. This thing, he's beaten to death, was it over 19 minutes, beaten to death by 6 police. The puddle of blood just grows and grows as his cries for help me, I'm sorry, calling out for his dad to help him. It's all on video. You can hear it. You can see it. It's the most black and white case of, what do they call the police, the black and whites? The most black and white case of the black and whites? Murdering somebody. It's all on camera, and they just let him go. And Rodney King was beaten, but he didn't die. He got a multi-million-dollar settlement, I believe, and lived for a decade and a half before he passed away a couple years ago. And for that, the city burned. Los Angeles burned, riots. Reginald Denny, just some trucker pulled out and smashed with a cinder block on his head? Just insane uproar over that one, and I'm not seeing anything about this Kelly Thomas case. And I don't know why. So we're going to transition. We're going to talk about that on the other side on the Agree to Disagree program. I appreciate all of you for listening to our sports program, The Unhappy Hour. Please do us a favor, check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at American_media_, and go on Facebook and search The New American Media with spaces in between, and like our page. YouTube.com/The New American Media. Click subscribe. All right, so we'll be back on the other side talking about some important, sickening, relevant stories. Oh, does the Cleveland Browns qualify as sickening and relevant? Probably not important, except to us sports geeks. Sickening, yeah, it does make me sick. Relevant, it's relevant if you're a sports fan. But nothing on this magnitude. So we'll make that hard pivot and transition. We do a lot of stuff over here, whether it's spirituality or finance or politics or sports, the music. There's really nothing off limits here. That's why the show's called Agree to Disagree. So if you're only here for the sports, I encourage you to swing by if you're willing to have that conversation as well. My name's Brian Engelman for the TNAM Radio Network here on The New American Media.
You are listening to The New American Media.